who is at work, not normally having to work on Fridays right now because he's been working 410s. However, he may get off early. So I wanted to go ahead and get started because once he's here and Ernie hears him pull up, it's mayhem. So I figured I would go ahead and get started, kind of show you what I've been working on. Let me show you behind me. What I did was I hung up as best I could 2 of the patchwork blankets that I have made so far. Um, this one right here is a small size blanket, which is, hold on, 24 by 17 inches, give or take. I was using 6-inch squares of fleece for that. This one is a medium, which is, give or take, 32 inches by 36 inches. And for that, I used 8-inch squares. And it looks like it worked out pretty well. They're not perfect by any means, but I'm not perfect. So I don't think the doggies or kitties will look at my seams and go, "Oh, you did a bad job." So, let me give you I have finished 16 blankets so far. Those 2 plus this stack. Some of these are not patchwork. They are one-off cuts, and I finished the ends, although you don't need to on fleece. Like you can see where I stitch all the way around the edge. On the solid color blankets, I have been pulling out my variegated thread, and you can see do all the different colors all the way around just to make it more fun. So far today, I have cut out 1, 2, 3. I thought I had more than that. Only 3? Yes. 1 medium size and 2 smaller size blankets that are just one-off cuts. So what I'm working on now, I'll turn the camera around so that you can see. I have been working on cutting out more squares of fleece for another small doggy blanket. Depending on how much I get through today, I'd love to get a medium sized one done too, but I just didn't realize I was going to have the time constraints today that I do. So let me turn you around. I'm still working on cutting out some more 6-inch squares, and then we will try to get at least a small one sewn together within the next hour. Okay, so let me turn you around. Yes, this is the fleece that I still haven't cut into yet. It's gonna be a lot of blankets. That's okay. The more I make, it's just more to donate to our local shelter. Now, I think these are scraps. Are these scraps? No, that's not. This is. And these are good. Okay. To do the small size blanket, you need 12 6-inch squares. So let's see how many I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many white ones do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I need 5. I need 1 more for this, and then how many of these do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Let's see how many squares I can get out of this. So those of you who are here, thank you for joining me today. Let me tidy up this edge. Sometimes when I get busy cutting, I'm not careful. I need to be. The great thing about working with fleece is that It's very forgiving. Okay, so that makes 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that will go with this stack. And this will just be, 2 different colors of patches as opposed to a variety. So I'm going to set these over here. Let's see how many I get from this. So if you're watching, I again appreciate you being here. If you get a second, you're not too busy, just put in the chat where you're viewing from. I always love to see where everybody is from. One of the reasons I love YouTube so much is because I get to meet people from all over the world. We can share ideas, and otherwise I wouldn't ever have an opportunity to meet many of you. I think we're doing good. And one more. So if anyone's curious why I decided to take on this project, here from Wisconsin. Welcome, Wisconsin. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I saw a friend of mine online. I can't remember where. Oh, no. No, she's not from Wisconsin. But anyway, I saw where she had snow today. I was like, I am not ready for that. So I don't know which part of Wisconsin you're from, but if you love snow, I hope you have it. If you don't like snow, I hope you don't. Sorry, I had to grab a drink of water. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I need 2 more, and I think we need it in this rainbow motif fabric. So let's cut 2 more out of that. Let's grab one of the smaller pieces. What is that? Oh, it's a small piece that doesn't fit anything. Okay. So I need, oh, here we go. This is just like a small piece. Let's take this off. Add it to the stack. So a lot of this fleece was left over from when I had my first online business. And I used to make a lot of fleece products. I don't do that anymore. And then some of it, like this piece that I'm cutting, is from my mom, who she's a sewist. She taught me how to sew. And she had made when many of her niece's daughters, so grandnieces, were young, she made them fleece capes or ponchos that had hoods and ruffles at the bottom, and the girls loved them, absolutely loved them. She ended up making them extra ones, and she made a variety of sizes because they were anywhere between the ages of, like, at that point, 2 and maybe 8, 9, something like that. And they love them. They wore them all the time, and they wanted different colors, and so she made so many of them. Let's line this up. It's a little crinkly on the end, but I think we're okay. So as long as this lines up, and we're going to clear up this edge, we're going to go up the 6-inch mark. Okay. And then just clean up this edge. Since we're working with a piece that wasn't straight to begin with. Alrighty. And we just needed 2 more out of this fabric. Oh, we're just barely going to make it. That's great. Let me clear up that little end. That was meant to be. So I did a video on yesterday, released yesterday, about making dog blankets. Just kind of gave a real overview on how to do it. I didn't go into a great deal of detail because most people who follow me are sewists, so they don't need me to handhold them. But I wanted to do a video today, or a live today, just to kind of show for those who maybe are new to sewing, but want to take this on as a project. So once you, like I said, this is going to be a small size dog or cat blanket, and I'm using 6-inch squares, and the finished measurements I'm shooting for is 24 inches. So it'd be 24 inches this way, 17 this way. And that makes a nice size blanket for like a small dog or a cat. So first thing you want to do is just, especially if you're doing, using multiple different colors of fabric, it's a good idea to just lay them out first. Now this is a little bit easier because obviously I'm only using 2 different kinds of fabric. It'll kind of, it'll give you an idea, like I said, especially if you're new to sewing. And then this one will go here. This one will go here, and another little rainbow motif in the middle. There we go. So that's more or less what it will look like when we finish our small blanket. Now, when I sew them together, what I usually do, and this is no means am I the authority on this, just the way I do it, and hopefully it's helpful. I sew these seams together first, and I do it by row. So 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Then when I'm done, I take those rows and sew them together and have a blanket. Now, if I'm doing a much bigger one, like when I'm doing the medium or the large, I kind of look at, decide, well, I guess I do typically go horizontal and then vertical on the sewing. It really just has to do with what's easier because I have limited space. So you kind of have to think about that when you're doing blankets and, having enough space to do it. So I want to scoot this up a little bit. And what thread do I have? I'm going to have to switch out some thread on my sewing machine and my serger. I should have done that before I got online, but I was not thinking. Have those moments, as everyone does. Sometimes I refer to it, I gotta have a drink of water. Some people refer to it as menopausal moments. Some people call it senior moments. I just use, whichever one fits the bill at the time. Hey, Tracy. Hi from Scotland. Glad you're here. What time is it there? It's like 5. I'm Eastern Standard Time US. Is that 5 hour or 6 hour difference? I forget. Just winding up my other thread. And let me grab a spool of white. Oh my goodness, I am going to have to order some more white thread very soon. Okay, I'm going to turn you around. Here we go. Hello. You know, I thought about something. I'm from the other blankets I've done so far. I had used my serger, but I know not everyone has one. So I tell you what I'm going to do with these next two small ones. I'm going to do them strictly on my sewing machine because chances are most people are only using a sewing machine. So let me get this threaded up. Oh, almost dropped my bobbin. There we go. All right. Put the bobbin in. And where's my little thread catcher? What did I do with it? Up. Oh, there it is. This is what I toss my scraps and my thread in. A friend of mine on TikTok has a crochet business, and she made these. I had to have one. I love the pink and the gray, and it's perfect for me just to throw in threads and, you know, try to keep as much out of the floor as possible. So I'll put that over here. I've got my thread scissors. All right, so let's thread up the machine. Now with fleece blankets, you can sew them together with a zigzag stitch or a straight stitch because you don't really have to worry about it fraying. I'm going to put mine on what's considered stitch 1, which is a straight stitch that is through the center. If I do 0, 0, it's still a straight stitch, but the needle is over to the left. You know what? I might just do that. Sometimes it does make it easier to line up and keep the keep the hem narrow, or So let's grab our first row. We have white, rainbow, and white. So we'll start with that first. Now, a lot of times with fleece, you don't have like a right side or wrong side. Like some of the plaid and stuff I have, it looks the same on either side. Now with this rainbow, and you can tell a difference. Here's what is considered the right side. But you can see that the other side, maybe it's not coming across on camera, but it is slightly more faded than this side. So the white is the same on both sides. Now you can pin these together if you need to. I've been sewing long enough that sometimes I just get impatient with pinning. So we're going to sew right sides together. There we go. And I'm just going to line it up at about, I think it's about considered 3/8 of an inch. Now the one thing I do know with my machine, if I start too close to the edge with a fabric like this, it's just going to, that needle is going to simply just push that fabric down into there, and it is, it's a pain to dig out. So what I'm doing, I start about 1 centimeter up. I put my needle down, and hopefully this works because, you know, I'm live, but you never know. There we go. Front, and I'll go back. I'll do the back stitch, and how are we doing? Let me see. Yep, it pulled it down in there. You got to be careful when you back stitch on it. You also need to keep moving. I do have a heavy duty needle in. Sometimes fleece is just tricky. Sometimes if it has a lot of stretch to it, you need a ballpoint needle. What I'm using isn't too stretchy, so I don't know. Let's try that again. Needle in. There we go. Now we're going. And a little back stitch at the end. Now, you can, if you want to, see how nice that looks? If you have pinking shears, which if you are new, you don't know what pinking shears are. You see this is an antique pair that I found that I need to have sharpened. So I'm not going to use them. But you can pinking shear the end. It gives a nice little zigzag edge. It does keep things from fraying. But if you, and it can look nice. But you certainly don't need to do that on fleece unless you just want to. All right, so let's get the next piece of white added on here. There we go. And again, we're going to be about 3/8 of an inch. Always back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Now I do need to, from where I started this, I'm going to line up those stitches. I was afraid to back stitch too far. There we go. And I'm just running it off at the end because I was afraid to start too close to this portion because I was afraid it would dig down in again, which not fun. Okay. There we go. Our first row. If things aren't perfectly lined up, like here, don't worry. That's why you have scissors, and you can trim it before or after you sew. I typically will do it right on the outset and not wait until I sew together because sometimes it can be tricky. But if you want to leave that extra room because you're going to be using your pinking shears, by all means. Okay. There we go. First one. All right, let's do row 2. Now, if you have like this, most of the fabric I have that I use doesn't have any specific direction. This one does. So I want to try to make sure that all the rainbows are going the same way. In fact, I want to do it this way just because of the way my brain works. Let's get it lined up. One nice thing about fleece is you don't feel like you really have to pin stuff together. It sticks together really well. So it's not as if, some fabrics you use are very slippery, and it can be difficult, to say the least, to keep them from sliding while you're, carrying them to your machine or you're sewing them. But fleece definitely kind of sticks together well on its own. I am just trimming off any excess. And what happened to, oh, there it is. Okay. So we want to go this way. Remember, you are going to sew, if your fabric has very distinct differences between the front and the back, be sure that you always sew right sides together. Okay. Now we have row number 2 ready to go. Oh, always remember to cut your threads. I try to do it right as I am done with something because otherwise I will forget. All right. Next. And just trim off the very edges. Sometimes I didn't cut straight, but I'll go ahead and trim it now as opposed to later. I know they say you shouldn't hold fabric up when you cut it, but sometimes for me that is the easiest. So I like to live dangerously. Okay. Now we need to do another plain white square. And when it opens, is it going to be? Yes. Just making sure my rainbows are all still going the same way. There we go. Another row. So that's row number 3. We've got one more to do for this small blanket. And we are going to start with, again, right sides together. There we go. Making sure that our rainbows are going to be correct direction. Then we will be ready to start attaching the rows. All right, let's see how we did. Oh, threads. And we're just going to make sure that we even it up a little bit if we need to. You can tell I was in a hurry when I was cutting. I didn't do a very good job. Shame on me. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. And truth is, the only time somebody knows what the inside of a garment looks like is if you show them. They don't need to know. If you're happy and you like the way it turned out, that is the most important thing. And in this instance, I am sewing for cats and dogs. So if my seams aren't perfect, I don't think they're going to mind. But what do you think? Okay. And there's our last row. Now, I'm going to push this back for a moment, and I am going to grab pins for this. just because it'll be easier for me to demonstrate. And this is a time when I would make sure that I pin things together. All right, so let me see something real quick. Nope, wrong way. There we go. So it's going to look like my rainbows are upside down, but when I sew it together across here and I open it up, they're all going to be facing the correct way or the same way. So the one time when I really do focus on pinning, and again, I am not the expert on anything, but I do find that this is the time where I do want to pin. I'm matching up this seam with the seam on the other row, and just so they don't shift, I will pin those seams together. You know, open it up, open up the seam if you can, not the seam, but the excess. Oh, that pin is not very sharp. Let's pick another one. There we go. All right. It might be time to buy some new pins. My, oh my, oh my. I am 0 for 2. Okay, that's better. All right. So you can see that I have them, the seams lined up. So now, make sure the ends match, and they do. Pull the machine a little closer. Make sure my thread is in the proper place. We're going to line it up 3/8 of an inch, and we will sew our first row together. Where's my pedal? Here we go. Now, I don't have my walking foot on, which can sometimes be challenging with this machine when I'm going over something thick, but so far so good. Overall, I really do like this machine. It's been great. It has plenty of stitches. I can definitely sew through lots of, thick fabrics. I do a lot of denim upcycles, and it is fabulous. So, cannot complain. Okay, there we go. There's our first 2 rows. So I'll push this back again, and we will grab our next row. And I need to make sure it goes what looks like upside down. Again, so that when it folds down, it's going the correct way. Always double check that before you sew it together. Not that you can't pick it apart and start over, but let's face it, none of us really like doing that unless we have to. I have a love-hate relationship with my seam ripper. Oh, these pins! I need to buy new ones. I need to just get online and buy some new straight pins. These are pretty old. I've had them a very long time. And yes, this is all filled with sawdust and the stuff that's supposed to sharpen them, but after a while, it's just time. If you're new at sewing, remember, when you're sewing a straight line, don't look at your needle. Watch where the edge of your fabric is on the lines that you have for measurements. Because you can watch that needle and you may be sewing at an angle and not realize it and not want to. I know for those of us who have been sewing for years, it's second nature. But when someone's just starting out, sometimes it's just nice to give a gentle reminder. All right, let's see how we're looking. So far, so good. All right, so let's get our last row done, and then I'll show you how I'm going to finish around the ends. So here is our last one. Let's go ahead and pin those seams in place. Now, the video that I put out yesterday about this, I include the measurements that I was basing everything on. I just did some general research, but I include that in the description of the video. I had just done a little research to see, what's the average size of a bed for a small dog or a cat? What's the average size for what would be considered a medium-sized dog? And then like a large or extra large dog. So I include all of that in the video, and I actually show making. Hold on, I'm gonna turn you up. There we go. I actually show this blanket, and of course this one in the video. I love this one. I almost want to keep this for Ernie, but I made Ernie one, so I'm not going to keep it for him. But I really love it. I love all the fabric. Okay, here we go. Our last row. We're just going to make sure everything lines up nice and neat. Here we go. Again, 3/8 of an inch. Little back stitch at the beginning and the end. Making sure I'm sewing straight. You do not have to take pins out. You can sew over them. I, however, am just a coward. Had a bad experience once. Never did it again. But I know many people do. So if you're brave, go for it. Making sure we line up. We line up great. We're almost to the end. And then we'll talk about how we're going to finish the edges. You do not have to, if you don't want to. With fleece, you do not have to worry about finishing the edges by sewing, because they're not going to fray. But let me push this back. I'll tell you what I plan on doing with these. And then I'll also give you some options. So, I had bought this variegated thread. Isn't that pretty? A long time ago. So what I'm going to do with these, because don't you think that'll look really pretty? It matches so well. So what I'm going to do with that thread is just put it up here. I'm not going to worry about putting it in my bobbin. And I'm going to do a wide zigzag stitch all the way around the edges with that pretty variegated thread. And then if there's any excess that kind of sticks out, I'll just trim that off. Not a problem. Now, you can do any color thread you want. You could, like I said, when I did this on my serger, I pulled out some variegated thread. Now, it looks a little different than a standard zigzag, but it's close. There we go. You see all the different colors. It's just fun. You don't have to. You could make it match. It's totally up to you. But if you don't want to have to zigzag around the edge, here's some ideas. One, we talked about pinking shears. If you have a pair of pinking shears, you can just do that all the way around the edge, and you'll have a nice little zigzag all the way around the blanket, which would also be pretty. But then I was thinking about something. Let me put these away if I can. There we go. And we're going to try this together and see if it works. I will occasionally do like little note cards and Christmas tags. So I had bought these. Now, these are not pinking shears. I don't know if you can tell. They are a scalloped edge scissor. They are intended mainly for paper. But let's try something. Let me grab a small piece of, there, we aren't going to use this. This is really small. Let's see how it cuts fleece. Ready? We'll do just right along the edge. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, it cuts beautifully. Now, if they're older, you might want to get a new pair for this. These are really inexpensive. I think I got them off Amazon. They were under 10 bucks. But there you go. Can you see the scalloped edge? There. Wouldn't that be pretty? All the way around. If you have, now this was pretty easy because this fleece isn't particularly thick. If you have a very thick fabric, your hands might get a little worn out. It might be a little more difficult, but if you want to do it, you can. So yeah, definitely a fun idea to try. And even with just like the one-off cut pieces, like I did, like I said, I had several that are solid color. And all I did was I just cut the dimensions and finished the edges. But if you want, you could do this, the scalloped edge, or you pinking shears and do a zigzag edge all the way around. And I think that your Humane Society would appreciate it. So now I'm going to pull this forward. I'm going to take the white thread off of my machine. Put this back over here. And we'll take the variegated thread. As I'm just going to leave white in the bobbin. It'll be fine, because you're not really going to notice it. And thread up the machine. Okay, and then I want to choose a zigzag stitch, which for me is number 4. And then I have to decide how wide. I want the stitches to be pretty wide. So I'm going to put them at a 4. Let's see what this looks like. I have it set at 4 by 3.5. So let me grab a little piece of scrap white. I thought I had some. Oh, there it is. I can't reach. Okay. Oh, no, that's not fleece. What did I do with... Oh, here we go. This is a scrap piece. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go along the edge just to see what it looks like. It's always a good idea to test it out before you do it. That way you don't have to pick out stitches if you don't feel like it. Okay, what happened? Something. It only did a few. It came unthreaded. Let's try that again. I am not sure why that happened. Let's start over. Things always happen. Let's put the needle up. Here we go. You know these things only happen when I go live, right? Kidding. Let me make sure that I'm just going to put this tension on 4. That might be better. Cut off this excess. And I'm actually going to slow down my stitching on this, because that could be the problem too, because I had my speed up to 3. So let's just see. That could be the difference. All right, let's see what it looks like. Not bad. I don't know what happened here. Let's take it down to a 3 and see what that looks like. And we're going to lower this, that as well. Okay. Now this might be better. Let's see. Yeah, although it's still skipping some stitches around, and I don't know what is going on. Huh. Let's dial down our... Should I dial up my tension? Let's see what happens if I dial up my tension. Yeah, we're going to put this back up to 3. Leave that 2.5. Okay. So you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like to do variegated. So that's what I want to do on this blanket. So I want to rethread this again. I wonder, let me look at something. No, it's not too dusty in there. Huh. Oh. You know what? It could be the bobbin. Let's, I can pull out any color. It doesn't have to be white. I think we're going to rewind that bobbin before doing another blanket with white. Let's see. What do we want to use? Oh, that matches nice. The only part of the bobbin thread you're going to see is just, you know, the very small portion that at the bottom of the zigzag. But as long as it coordinates, it'll be fine. All right, let's try this. I have a feeling there's a good chance that it could have been the bobbin thread that was really giving the most grief. Because it was starting to run out, but it also seemed really loose, which is never good. Okay. All right, so here we are with our small doggy blanket, which is approximately 17 inches. This 17 inches by 24 inches. This is good for a small dog or a cat. So this, let's just go ahead and put this on the machine. I'm going to get close to the edge as possible. Go ahead and drop my needle in. I will give it a little back stitch at the beginning, and then we're just going to go all the way around. I'm going to speed up. There we go. And did that thread pop again? It did. Well, this is disappointing. Maybe I've had that thread too long. We're going to make it work all the way around. I do have other variegated threads, but I do not want to pick out what I have already done. Because it's not fun. I'm going to get that in there. I will go ahead and slow back down again. I will not try to speed, because that could also be the problem. Although I like to sew fast. I'm going to watch this up here just to see what's happening with that spool as we are coming around. And it seems to be okay. And it popped again. Interesting. But I have to say, I am liking the color. So I'm just going to have to be patient. And you guys are going to have to, unfortunately, be patient. Although, you know what? I don't know how patient you guys are, but let's look at something. Because the other option is that I have sewn with so much fleece. Where is my... It is possible that I have a buildup of fleece fuzz. Where is my little kit? Oh, I have a feeling it's behind here. Yep, there it is. And it's behind my other blankets. Let's just see. Let's see how bad, how dirty my machine is. How embarrassing is this going to be? I'm going to take the bobbin out. Let's just see. You guys can tell everyone. Oh, if I get this started. This is the only thing I don't like about this machine. Is trying to get the screws turning. Getting them started is a righteous pain in the butt. Okay, there we go. There's the first one. Let's set this over here. Oh, come on. Yeah, there we go. It started. Okay. I know my serger needs a serious cleaning after the last couple blankets I did. Actually, it's not horrible. It's not too embarrassing. But I am going to take out some of the dust, the fuzz that has built up from the fleece. In particular, underneath the bobbin holder. And there is a little, you know what, there is some buildup underneath there. This right here could have been the main culprit. That was underneath this little case that holds the bobbin. So let me see if there's any more. Let's get it all cleared out. The rest machine is not a problem, but this, oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm going to say that's the issue. There we go. Much better. Okay. Let's get this back in. There we go. And let's get our case back on it. Wrong way. And screw for the right. Screw for the left. Let's tighten it up a little bit. And let's hope that was the issue. I mean, honestly, I don't feel like I've had that thread too long. I mean, I know if you have it for too long, it can dry rot, but really did not feel like I've had it that long. I don't know. But sometimes skip stitches and stuff, that's what it's an indication of, so we'll see. Let's snip off these extra threads from up here. And we will keep our fingers crossed. We'll pick it up right there. We'll line it back up to where I was. And it caught. This time, though, it was getting caught down into the seam got caught on the feed dogs, which will happen sometimes when you deal with a lot of fleece. It can happen with jersey material as well. It's frustrating, but you just have to be patient with yourself and, you know. It is doing better. So it could just very well have been too much fleece. Oh, I spoke too soon. I spoke too soon. I have a feeling it's going to be the only time I use this thread, which is sad. I'll just have to order some more. I remember where I got it from. It's so pretty. But yeah, this is just frustrating. I don't want to deal with this all the time. And there it goes again. Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be a frustrating problem. I'm glad I didn't use it to assemble the the blanket, because it would worry me that it would come apart. But for decorative around the edges, hopefully it will be okay. Yep. Okay. All right, I am frustrated. I am trying really hard not to be. And I do not want to pick all of this out. It's a good thing I am stubborn. But I'm going to show you what this looks like. And I think I'm going to call it quits for a little while, because I am... Here we go. I'll show you on the corner. See how pretty it looks? So I do want to continue that the rest of the way around. I am about halfway around, and I think I'm going to have to just let that, throw that thread away, which is sad. So there we go. You know, sometimes these things happen and we just have to adapt. So today, that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm just going to have to adapt. But I want to thank everybody who stopped in today. I am going to go take a little break, walk away from that, and then I will be coming back. I don't know if I'm going to come back live today, but I will probably go live next week. Well, I will start sewing together some more dog blanket, more blankets to donate. Maybe some bigger ones, like, for instance, there we go. I need to definitely make some more medium and large in the patchwork. And then, of course, the small ones are a little bit easier. Just because, it's often that you have smaller pieces of fabric. So, I'm going to head out. I will hopefully be back again next week, sewing live. And, of course, I'll have a new video out next week. I have not decided which project to do yet. So you're just going to have to be surprised. Thank you to everybody who showed up. And I will see you next week. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. And until I see you again, happy sewing.